Hey everyone, I'm Jaden,
And I'm Cam.
and we are the Super Gamer Bros, and this is the Super Gamer Bros podcast. We're just a couple of brothers who love playing games and love talking about games, so that's what we do. And to the listeners out there, if you're sitting there wondering to yourselves, man, why is Noah doing a silly voice? And why did he not introduce himself as Noah? That's because Noah is not here today. I guess just to inform you as to why, just there was kind of a scheduling conflict with this episode. Mostly my fault, but also mostly Noah's. We're gonna blame him. He's not here. He won't listen to this episode. Noah's fault. We just would not have been able to record an episode to get it out in time for today when the episode comes out. So I had to call an audible, some last minute changes, and I brought my other brother, Cam. So the name still works. Other brother Cam is here to talk about the game today.
What's up, guys? Hope you guys are doing good.
All right, and that's Cam. Man, you said you hope they're doing good. I don't think I've ever commented on how they're doing. I've never
Wow,
commented on how the listeners are
you're terrible,
doing.
man.
Hey, listeners, I hope you guys are having a great day. It's always about us. I hope you guys are doing good too. Anyway, what game are we talking about? Well, you already know because you saw the title of the episode, but today, Cam, we are talking about Bioshock 2.
Yes, a very good game in my opinion. I also think it's very underrated in the series itself.
I think that is true. It is typically considered by many to be the worst Bioshock game. So, Bioshock 2 was released in, I want to say, 2010. So I'm going to.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Developed by 2K Marin, published by 2K Games. That was a fun conversation a few days ago.
Yes, it was.
And actually, this was actually the first Bioshock game that I played. I believe I might have played Infinite first, but I think Bioshock 2 was actually the first game the Bioshock game that we played. Noah and I played it, kind of took turns, played it together many years ago, on the PlayStation 3, and it was, I mean, enjoyable. It's a fun game.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I also agree. And it's also really funny because me being introduced to it initially was through my brothers Noah and Jaden. I
Yep.
used to love watching them play games, and I remember I used to come out and see them playing it.
I guess we
And
should also say Cam is a little young guy. He's a lot younger. Noah and I are only 10 months apart, but Campbell is, what, I think 8 years. You're eight years younger than I am.
I'm
So I'm cutting that out. They can't know that. Campbell is 8 years younger than I am, an indistinguished, indeterminate age. We don't know how old he is, but he is younger than me. So yeah, I think it is actually kind of interesting to do a podcast with Cam because Noah and I growing up so close together in age and basically liking all the same games, playing all the same games together. Because of that, you can kind of tell if you listen to our episodes, we have the same opinions on a lot of games we play. Cam is a total wild card. Like up until a year ago, I didn't even know he liked video games.
I do.
Yeah, so yeah, it is. Will be interesting to hear your opinions, Cam. So your experience with Bioshock 2, go ahead.
I played it, I believe, a couple of years ago. One of my buddies actually had it came out in 2016. It was like the pack. I'm trying to think of the word.
Wasn't it like the like Ultimate Rapture collection or like just the
Yeah,
Bioshock
yes,
collection, something like that?
yes, Bioshock collection. And so I got my hands on it. I played one, then I played two, and then I think I played Infinite, but I am not sure. I honestly, that's Infinite's the one I'd probably have to go back and play again. But Bioshock 2, I remember, and I thought it was a pretty good game. I thought it was very underrated, and it was really fun playing as Big Daddy. I think that's the main takeaway.
Yeah, you get to
Compared
play
to
as
the
a Big
first,
Daddy. Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, it was sweet, and you got new tools, which we talk about later in this episode, and I think the story was still pretty cool, and I think it's kind of fascinating with the game because it kind of goes in with your own beliefs, and it kind of tests your limits.
I
With
do
some of the
think I do think the story of 2 is actually probably my least favorite. If we're kind of talking about that, I do think it is the weakest story. And not like it's bad, it's just I don't know, it feels the story of Bioshock 2 to me feels like it's a little bit more, hey guys, we're making a game, this is the writer's room. We're making a game where a Bioshock game, we're making the second one. You're playing as a big daddy. Okay, how do we make that make sense? I feel like the entire concept of the second game revolved around you playing as a big daddy and then them just trying to make a story where that works. And I
You know
feel
what?
like yeah.
That's a good point. I do agree with you there. But I would say though, I do think it still does bounce off the first game a little bit though.
Well, obviously, yes.
I feel like the only thing I would say about it that I didn't like is that I feel like a lot of it was the same, and it's kind of hard when you're making a second game, and you already know everything because of the first game. I'm sure they had a pretty big challenge trying to create it where it was still mysterious, even though we kind of knew everything already from the first one.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. What do I think about what?
Bioshock 2. Like, what's your main take?
Well, like I said, it was the first Bioshock game I played. I enjoyed it. We'll talk more detail as we get into it. So we're going to go ahead and jump back in here to actually talking about the game with the setting. So Bioshock 2 takes place in the city of Rapture, an underwater metropolis hidden from the world. Rapture was founded in the 1940s by billionaire Andrew Ryan to establish a city free from religious influences and government regulation. The city's citizens soon began splicing, genetically modifying themselves using Adam, a substance derived from sea slugs. Adam was used to create plasmids that enable superpowers such as the ability to create lightning or control fire. Class conflict and civil war were exacerbated by the side effects of Adam abuse. Modified and conditioned children called Little Sister collected scarce Adam from corpses and recycled it under the protection of armed and armored big daddies. Rapture eventually descended into civil war and became a crumbling dystopia populated by splicers, the kind of insane, driven mad by splicing remains of the citizens. In the aftermath of Ryan's death during the first Bioshock game, the dissident collectivist Sophia Lamb and her followers, known as the Rapture Family, have assumed control of the city. And that's the game. That's the background information. Obviously, Cam, we will talk about Rapture. Rapture is, I think, one of the most, potentially could be the most iconic locations in gaming history. The underwater utopia Rapture.
Yeah, I agree. And I think there's a lot of captivating images and storyline in general in Rapture. As it's kind of crazy how like everybody, it's a big cult, in my opinion. It's one big
It's very
cult.
much like that. I feel like it's very culty. I absolutely kind of agree with that. I think that's a very good point to make. But yeah, it's just like a bunch of rich, wealthy people and enticing some poor people of just living in a city free from government control, free from religious control, where people can just live how they want.
Yeah, and you know what this kind of reminds me of? The Rapture family, or not the Rapture family, my bad. The city Rapture and its people, I guess it is a family. It reminds me of Fireflies in the game The Last of Us, with the way they kind of have their own rules. They don't really follow anything that people tell them to. And I'm not saying fully, okay? Don't take my word on this completely. I'm just saying that there's bits and pieces of it where I can kind of piece that together.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think you can really, I think, compare Andrew Ryan and his followers, at least initially, to kind of any group like that thinks, oh, hey, the people who are running things are wrong and they're doing this wrong. We know a better, like things should be done our way. We know a better way. It's kind of like that.
Yeah.
But the underwater city, absolutely incredible. As Cam said, great visuals just in both Bioshock and Bioshock 2. Absolutely incredible environment. And again, it's super iconic. Anyway, we're going to move on to the story here. So Bioshock 2 begins on New Year's Eve, 1958. Subject Delta, a big daddy, patrols Rapture with his little sister Eleanor. Sophia Lamb, Eleanor's mother, separates the pair and forces Delta to kill himself. Delta awakens in 1968, resurrected by a little sister under the direction of Eleanor. Delta is informed by Bridget Tenenbaum, remember her from the first game, Cam? The custodian
Yeah.
of the rehabilitated little sisters, that because he has a physiological bond with Eleanor, he will die unless he finds her. Helped by Tenenbaum's ally, Augustus Sinclair, Delta makes his way to Eleanor, who is trapped in Sophia Lamb's stronghold. Lamb plans to use Adam to transfer the minds and memories of all of Rapture's inhabitants into Eleanor to create a selfless leader. Traveling through the city, Delta encounters members of Lamb's Rapture family and can choose whether to kill or spare them. Delta arrives at the containment chamber where Eleanor is held, but Lamb captures him and severs his bond to Eleanor by temporarily stopping Eleanor's heart. Delta begins to weaken as the bond cannot be reestablished. Eleanor transforms herself into a big sister to free Delta. Together they head for an escape pod, Sinclair prepared to escape the city. They find that Lamb has converted Sinclair into a Big Daddy and are forced to kill him. Eleanor and Delta make it to the escape pod, but Delta is mortally wounded by a trap set by Lamb. The ending of the game is influenced by how the player interacted with Little Sisters and the fates of the Rapture family's members. Eleanor can either save her mother or leave her to drown, and that is affected by how you interact with the family members. And then, depending on how you interact with Little Sisters, Eleanor either absorbs Delta's atom and personality and memories and leaves Rapture with the Little Sisters to better the world at large, or forcibly extracts Delta's atom and becomes bent on world domination. I
Yeah,
believe, and that's the story. I believe when Noah and I played through the game, we got the bad ending because Noah is a bad person and always tries to do the bad ending.
sounds like Noah.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually did. Well, let's talk. Cam, what did you think of the story for Bioshock 2?
Like I said, I think it's still an underrated story, but I think you do bring a good point where it does kind of seem, I don't know if the right word is underdeveloped, but it just kind of like they tried to mold something around Big Daddy.
Well, I feel
Um,
like, yeah, I do feel like it is nowhere near as large scale as I felt like both Bioshock and Bioshock Infinite felt. Like Bioshock Infinite, you're doing a lot of stuff, and it's like huge deal. I feel like in the first game, taking on Andrew Ryan and eventually Fontaine, and like it feels like you're having a huge impact on Rapture and just the world as you either free or harvest Little Sisters in the first game and stuff. In this game, Bioshock 2, it really feels like you're not making a huge impact. It seems like it's a much more contained story.
yeah, I agree. I do agree. I feel like they kind of limited themselves too a little bit. But I will say overall though, I still think the story is, it's somewhat captivating and when you go through the story, I think you kind of get like that weird flashback of when Sophia Lamb makes you kill yourself and you're just like, watching this and you're just like, whoa, right? And I also think it's interesting too about how when you go and you listen to the little like voice recordings of what people are saying, I think that was also really cool. But I will say though, even when I played the second one, I still didn't trust Sinclair. I don't know if that was just me personally, but for some reason he just didn't really seem trustworthy.
Well, don't know. I thought he was a stand-up guy.
Did you really? I don't know why, man. I always felt like he was gonna do something. I don't know. That was just me personally.
Well, I guess because I felt like, Bridget seemed like a good person, Tenenbaum, and she trusted him. So I was like, oh, well, if Bridget trusts him, I feel like I can too.
Really, yeah. There is a fun fact behind that though. I know that the play testers for the first game, they didn't trust Atlas because he had that Southern drawl voice, so they changed it to an Irish one.
Oh, I didn't
Um,
know that. That's
yeah,
interesting. That's actually
yeah,
very interesting.
yeah, which is a really cool thing. I saw that, so I thought that was pretty neat.
Yeah,
And that's why it
I
just kind of made
do.
it
I
neat.
do.
It just kind of made it neat that they gave Sinclair that Southern drawl voice, and I personally didn't trust him, so it just was kind of a coincidence.
I do. I did love Atlas's Irish accent. I
Yeah, he
loved
did
that.
have.
I loved that accent. Every time he talked, I did like his accent. I guess I also just me have a problem with the ending because Delta dies. I don't like that, and there's nothing you can do to change that. I feel like, as I said in the bad ending, Eleanor like extracts his atom and becomes bent on world domination. I feel like in the good ending, he should have lived and maybe helped her better the world or something like that.
Right, right. Yeah, no, I
Yeah,
definitely get that.
yeah. Like it's
Oh, I'm sorry. You go ahead, Jaden.
nah, you got it. You're good.
Oh, I was gonna say that. Yeah, the ending was definitely not my favorite. I also got the bad ending. I tried keeping it kind of 50-50, but it just didn't work out for me in the end.
Yeah, the
Uh,
game is kind of all or nothing.
yeah, well, it kind of pushes your limits of being, like it tests your morals out, right? Which I think
Yeah,
that's really interesting. I kind of
yeah.
love when a game that.
Oh yeah, we'll talk about that a bit later.
Yeah, yeah, you're good. Yeah, it just puts you in those positions that I like. But as for the ending, it kind of just sucks when Delta dies and Eleanor. I mean, takes his atom. That
Yeah,
kind of sucked. It just kind of left you off at like a cliffhanger. that wasn't a cliffhanger. It just kind of just felt hurtful.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Like I built up this character just for him to die.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'll always kind of what's the word? I never want your main character to die. Typically, I like when your main character. I like happy endings. I want the main character to live and be cool. Anyway, that is the story. Cam,
Yep.
tell us about the gameplay.
All right. So first, we're gonna talk about combat. Bioshock 2 is a first-person shooter. The player explores Rapture as Delta, a Big Daddy. Players use a combination of weapons, plasmids, and environmental traps to fight off enemy splicers. New to Bioshock 2, the player can use each weapon in a close-range melee attack and may simultaneously, oh my goodness,
It's a hard word.
equip a weapon and a plasmid.
Can you say that last sentence again?
Okay, here we go. All right. And they simultaneously.
Nope.
Hold on. Simultaneously. Right?
You're good.
All right. Simultaneously equip a weapon and a plasmid.
Yeah, you got it. Do it.
Yep.
Do it in one, right?
Okay. All right. I gotcha.
So yeah, I do first want to talk about one that every weapon has a close range melee attack. I mean that basically means it's like the Call of Duty press R3 do a melee attack kind of thing instead of having to equip the wrench for that. I do appreciate that because you don't have to just switch back and forth between weapons like to your wrench if you want to do a melee attack. And also simultaneously, that's how you say it, equip a weapon and a plasmid. That is awesome because you can do both at once and that's what you want, right?
Right.
Yeah. Although, I mean, I will give credit to the first Bioshock that switching between weapons and plasmids is very, very seamless and quick. It's not a huge annoyance to do so, but you just feel so much more powerful when you have both at once because you can shock and shoot, just boom, right one after the other.
Yes. And you just feel like what a Big Daddy feels like. So,
Yeah. And obviously, I think Bioshock is a very good first person shooter. I'm pretty sure I said the same comment about the first Bioshock, where it's one of the few first person shooters I feel like where you can play without having to aim down sights all the time. Firing from the hip is actually very easy, and I feel like with kind of how much you tend to move around in combat in this game, and having your plasmids and everything, it is good. I'm glad that they made it so easy to just shoot from the hip. Just makes it faster paced. It allows you to be faster paced with your combat. And in a game like this, with kind of this open map and exploration being a big part, I think it's a good thing they did that.
Yeah, I agree. And I also think the maneuverability, even as a Big Daddy, also is pretty good in the game too.
Yeah, that is true.
Some of the weapons that we have are the drill, which is new, the rivet gun, which is new, the launcher machine gun, the shotgun, and a spear gun, which the spear gun is new as well.
Yes. Yeah, so the drill and rivet gun, those are Big Daddy weapons, baby. You are a Big Daddy. Campbell calls me Big Daddy sometimes.
Okay. I mean, I'd like to hear another witness say that I have, but okay.
We'll get mom on the podcast so she can attest to that. Cam calls me Big Daddy sometimes. He's like, "Hey, what's up, Big Daddy Jay?" That's me.
Okay.
Anyway, no, so yeah, I mean that was a thing in the first Bioshock. You had your different kinds of Big Daddy. Some had the drills, and they had rivet guns, which I think you could pick up and use the rivet gun temporarily, but I don't remember, so don't quote me on that. Don't quote me on that, Cam. And
yeah.
But they're absolutely awesome guns. I mean, well, the drill obviously not a gun, but they're absolutely cool weapons. I mean, when I played through Bioshock 2, the first time, absolutely, I would say use the drill like 70% of the time, just because I thought it was such an awesome weapon to have. And between all the other weapons, I think the rivet gun is the one I use the most between the rest because it's a very effective. It's almost like, I don't know, what would you compare it to? Maybe like an assault rifle, like a semi-auto assault rifle.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's good. I think they're great weapons, great kind of replacements to some of the weapons in the first Bioshock. The spear gun, to explain that, basically is kind of like it's your long range kind of sniper weapon. It replaces the sniper from the first game if there is a sniper. If not, I'll edit that up.
Yeah.
And then obviously your launcher, machine gun, shotgun. Another thing I really do appreciate about Bioshock, which again I said it when we talked about the first one, Cam. Well, when Noah and I talked about the first one, is I love how simple their guns are. There's only 6, and there were only 6 in the first, but it's just like shotgun, boom, that's it. Machine gun, boom, that's it. It's not like, MP5, AK-47, M4, all these different types of guns. It's just boom, shotgun.
Right.
I
Yeah,
absolutely love the simplicity of it.
I do like that, and I think it kind of adds to it too. It's just that old classy kind of vibe that game gives off. And yeah, like you said, I also did use drill for the most of the time. But I think I kind of used the machine gun a lot more than I think I did the rivet gun. But I do, not to quote you on this, but I do believe you could pick up the rivet gun.
Okay, it's good. I'm glad you didn't quote me.
Yeah, you're good. You're good.
Um.
Go ahead.
Oh, well, you can go ahead.
I was going to speak about plasmids,
Oh,
so
go ahead and talk about
I
plasmids.
got you. Plasmids are the gene-altering powers discovered and used by the people of Rapture, and Delta uses them as well. Initially have 3 plasmid slots, but can be upgraded to 8.
Plasmid slots are like your weapon wheel for plasmids. You start with 3, you can eventually have 8.
Yes, and
Yep.
the ones that we have in Bioshock 2 are Electrobolt, Telekinesis, Incinerate, Cyclone Trap, Decoy, Hypnotize, Insect Swarm, Scout, which is new, Security Command, which is new, and then Winter Blast.
Most of these the name kind of tells you what they do. Security Command basically replaces Security Bullseye from the first game, which Security Bullseye makes security target whoever you hit it with. Security Command, it basically has you control security so it targets enemies. It's the same concept. And then Scout is a unique one where it kind of makes you basically kind of turn to a ghost so you can scout ahead, but you can't attack or anything when you're doing it.
Yeah, which I mean, I thought, in my opinion, I didn't really use Scout a lot. I think the one I used the most was Electrobolt.
I mean, absolutely. My problem, really, this is probably, I guess, if you don't count story in terms of gameplay, my first problem with Bioshock 2 is that they did not really add any new plasmids. Like, Security Command is kind of a repeat, and Scout is cool, but in terms of if we want to talk straight attacking, Winter Blast, Insect Swarm, Decoy had a different name, but it was the same one, but that's not even an attack one. Incinerate, Electrobolt, Cyclone Trap, which you even lose like a Wind Blast from the first game. That doesn't come back. Yeah, there's nothing new there in terms of attacking. And I wish there was. I mean, I like the plasmids, but I do feel like there's nothing new there. I wish they had kind of made more of a variety.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think they could add a lot more to use, and they just didn't. And I feel like the ones they added were just kind of like they were just there to be there. You know what I mean? Just kind of like a filler.
Yeah. Yeah, again, I feel like it kind of feeds into that, oh, we have to be a big daddy, but oh, plasmids were in the game. We have to use plasmids again.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
like,
yeah,
and
yeah.
I'm not saying, and of course, I'm never saying that's actually how it works. It just kind of, to me, feels like how it comes across. And even actually, when I first played Bioshock 2, years and years ago, didn't really use them a lot because I was just a little scared little boy, afraid to use new stuff in game, so I would just use guns. Like, having played Bioshock, the first Bioshock, very recently, I played that within the last year, I think, for the first time. And Bioshock 2, I first played I mean, probably 10 years ago. I felt like in the first Bioshock game, the plasmids are almost necessary. Even on, say, an easier difficulty, I felt like there were a lot of situations where, man, this would be annoying to deal with if I didn't have these plasmids to help make combat easier. And I feel like that is not really a thing in Bioshock 2. I feel like they, as you said, they feel like more an accessory and not a necessary part of the game.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think that like I said, they didn't really use them to their full potential. And yeah, I feel like half the time it's like I was only using the electric bolt because that one helped me out a lot mostly. And besides that, I kind of just stick with that because, once again, just like you said, I was a little scared boy. It's usually sticking to the code.
Yeah, I do also agree that, like, in the first game, there were kind of like environmental puzzles and things that used plasmids, which I think when Noah and I even recorded that episode and we talked about it, I said I wish they did that more because I thought that was very cool. And in Bioshock 2, I feel like they did it less, like a lot less.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
Which is weird because they had, like I said, they had a really, what do you call it, like a good rating about that. So I don't know
Yeah.
what they did.
I mean, it's like,
but I loved it.
yeah, I mean, it's like it's their thing. Like that, what separates Bioshock from another first person shooter? It's the plasmids. That's like, if you're talking straight gameplay, what makes Bioshock as a series stand out versus a Call of Duty or a Halo or any of these other first person shooter games? It's the fact that, oh, you got these plasmids, you get powers, And
Yeah,
I
I
just felt like,
agree.
yeah, and I just felt like the first game kind of utilized them better.
Yeah, I definitely agree.
Now, Cam, we will talk about traversal. So Bioshock 2 was a linear sort of semi-open world game. Once again, you find yourself in the city of Rapture. There are many areas of Rapture to explore. They're kind of large, open, explorable areas with many hidden secrets. We'll just talk about kind of the different maps for a second, because the game, where it is very similar to the first game, where you have all these kind of different separate maps that you can explore in, and then you move on to the next one once you've kind of completed that section of the story. And also, if I'm correct, which I believe I am, all completely new areas, no repeat areas in this game. You have the Adonis Luxury Gardens, Atlantic Express Depot, Ryan Amusements, Popper's Drop, Siren Alley, Dionysus Park, Fontaine Futuristics, Outer Persephone, and Inner Persephone. I do think one funny thing that kind of came about from me playing Bioshock 2 before Bioshock is not knowing about is the kind of references that I didn't get, and then now, as I was making the document for this episode, would get. For example, probably the biggest one is Frank Fontaine is the final villain of Bioshock. Spoilers. And Fontaine Futuristics is a big part of the story of Bioshock, because it was, a competing company with Andrew Ryan and stuff and kind of taking over. It was a whole thing. And in Bioshock 2, you actually get to explore Fontaine Futuristics.
Yeah.
Which was wasted on me the first time I played Bioshock 2 because I didn't know that.
Oh.
But it's like a cool thing that I just completely went over my head.
Yeah, no, that I played the first one, and then right after the first one, I played the second one. So seeing all the connections from the first to the second game was really cool. I would also say that Siren Alley, for some weird reason, terrified me. So yeah.
Yeah, I get you. Well, that had like those weird siren things, right?
Yeah.
Like the alarm heads and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, those things were scary as hell, though. I completely understand what you're saying with those. Yeah, I mean, again, it's just exploring more of Rapture. I think the maps in the game are fun. I do think overall, Bioshock 2, this maybe doesn't fit in with the traversal section, but I don't know where else to put it. Bioshock 2 is not as creepy to me overall as the first Bioshock. Like Bioshock, just walking through the like abandoned parts of Rapture with the old-timey music sometimes playing, and the splicers kind of everywhere. I mean, that game I feel like is very good example of a creepy game that is not necessarily like marketed as like a horror scary game, but it very much nails that aspect. I feel like this game, Bioshock 2, I did not feel that as much, but that's not. I mean, that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it is. I guess to me, I do like that creepy aspect of the first game, but has nothing to do with just exploring. Much like the first game, I think Rapture is an awesome location, and just having more of Rapture to explore, even though, I mean, for me, this was the first time, but even then, just having all those different areas to explore was incredibly fun.
Yeah, I agree. And also to go back to what you said about, like when you walk around, especially in the first one, I feel like they've been really good at giving like that ominous feeling where it's like, even though you feel like even though nothing's about to happen, you just feel like there's something that's about to happen. Like there's that constant tension.
I will let
Which
you
is
know,
interesting.
the word is pronounced ominous.
What I say?
You said omnious.
Okay. Do you want me to say that again?
Oh no, I love it.
Okay.
No, this is staying in. But no, I mean, I completely agree with what you say. I mean, that to me is the mark of, if you want. I actually just not even an hour ago was having this conversation with Haley about difference between a scary game and a like horror game. Is horror to me is more like the feeling that something is going to happen, and scary is when something actually happens, like jump scares and things like that.
Yeah.
But to me, the mark of a good horror game, an eerie game, spooky game is another word for it, is even if nothing happens, you just always feel like something is going to happen.
Yes.
And I mean, because honestly, if you play the first Bioshock, I think throughout the entire game, there are maybe 3 times where I think there is an intended jump scare in the first Bioshock game. But I played that game. It took me like 8 hours to beat it. And every instant I was always on my toes, like it's coming, man, it's coming. I could feel it, even though very rarely did anything actually happen. And again, I think Bioshock 2 loses that a bit, but just being in Rapture itself, I think, is a very ominous environment, and it does always have that feeling.
Yeah, and I also think too, like when you're in that position where you do feel like there's something that's always about to happen, I feel like it really gets you into the shoes of that character you're playing. But yeah, I'm pretty sure I might be crazy here, but I'm pretty sure it's Bioshock 1 where one of the little sisters like jump scares you, right? I'm not crazy.
I believe so. I think you're correct.
And like she came up from like she was upside down, like she came up from on top of the screen. that terrified me. That was
Yeah.
scary jump scare. I'm pretty sure that was my top one.
I don't know. I don't know. You're probably right, and if not, then no, who cares? Anyway, but yeah, I do think the map is just as cool. I think, just more exploration of Rapture. I will never say no to. Like, I keep hearing teases, mainly from Noah, about there potentially being another Bioshock game in the works, and if they do make one, I would hope that they would return to Rapture and just bring that location back, because it is a very fun place to explore. It's not just like a cool concept that they failed to deliver on. I think they very much delivered on the coolness of Rapture.
Oh yeah, for sure. The scenery for sure. And then when you see all like the detailed what do you call that? Like the detailed cultism of, Sophia Lamb with like the like I want to say spray painting on the walls and all that.
I mean,
And I just
the environmental details, or
yeah. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. And like but like when you go into certain rooms, like you find like Sophia Lamb and she's got like her head as a butterfly and they got like all these, butterflies around her and it's like a painting. It's like a weird like painting that's just like it
gotcha.
looks kind of like graffiti-ish.
Yeah,
And I don't know, I think that's also really cool too, just when they bring those type of aspects into the game.
yeah, I agree with you. Adding environmental details like that, especially in like kind of dystopian abandoned societies, is always fun and interesting to see kind of exactly how the society and the structures themselves have been degraded and defaced over the years.
Yes, yes.
Anyway, we'll move on now. Cam, where'd you go? There you
I'm
are. Right there. You're right there. Sorry, I can't see you. Tell us about, as we move on to our additional gameplay mechanics here, Cam, tell us about Little Sisters.
Okay. So the little girls, little sisters are the little girls that harvest Adam from corpses, accompanied by a big daddy. When the daddy is defeated, the little sisters can either be harvested or, new to Bioshock 2, adopted. If you adopt the little sisters, you then guard them as they harvest Adam from two dead bodies, and then you can harvest or save them at a vent. Which I just want to say too, something that was really cool about this game, which I can't, and I don't think they ever did this. No, I know they didn't do this in Bioshock 1, was you got to see the point of view of, I believe it was Eleanor, one of the little sisters.
I think it was, yeah.
And it was really cool because, when you're from Big Daddy's perspective or anybody else's, it's like this war torn, terrible, just looking state of distraught. When you're in her point of view, the place looks magnificent. It looks like a la la land. When she goes and goes to the dead bodies to get the Adam, they're actually like, instead of blood, it's roses, like rose petals on the ground. And usually there's like a little halo thing with angels. And I thought that was really neat, you know what I mean? Because it just shows you how infested and twisted their brain is because of Lamb, which I just think is really cool. As for big sisters, like female big daddies, they appear after you have either saved or harvested every little sister in a level. Defeat them for Adam.
Yeah, the Big Sisters was a cool thing. They're just like these little mini bosses. Kind of unnecessary in my humble opinion. I feel like, they were just kind of added to maybe attempt to kind of recapture the magic that was the Big Daddy when they first appeared. But
Yeah.
it just wasn't there. It didn't have the same catch on. I feel like.
No, I agree, and I just think they were kind of like, they didn't really have a lot of storyline to them, and
No, they were just there.
yeah, it wasn't really like a broad thing behind them. They were just there to defeat. So I don't know.
Yeah.
I wish they would have worked around them a little more because I think they could have been something better.
Yeah. And I did want to talk about Little Sisters, more of the fact that in Bioshock 2 you can adopt them and actually go with them as they are harvesting Adam. That is actually something that does happen in the first game, which I was, again, when I first played Bioshock 2, was unaware of. Where, towards the end of the first game, you actually have to like basically turn yourself into a Big Daddy, and then you accompany a little sister as she collects Adam, and you have to guard her. And they turn that one-time thing into a kind of recurring theme for Bioshock 2, which is semi-annoying and not, because in the first Bioshock with Little Sisters, you either harvest or save them and it's instant. But with this, they make the Little Sisters more of a bigger gameplay mechanic, because you have to, take them, collect Adam, and then take them to a vent and save them if you want to save them.
Yeah, which was a
So
big
it's
big pain in the butt.
Yeah, it's just it's kind of like they sort of fixed, because I did kind of complain about when talking with Noah in Bioshock 1 how the little sisters are supposed to have this kind of, this whole morality test of, oh, if you harvest them you get more Adam, but it's evil. If you save them, you're a good person, but you get less Adam. They do fix that in Bioshock 2 because you can, even if you adopt them, you can still end up harvesting them and it gets you more Adam, which again is a bad thing to do, or you can save them and get less Adam. In Bioshock 1, if you save them, you would get gift baskets that would contain Adam. Therefore, saving them actually gets you more Adam in the first game, which kind of negates the whole morality concept when it actually is better gameplay wise for you to save them. Bioshock 2 does fix that. There is no additional benefits to saving them. If you adopt them, you can get 80 additional Adam from the two bodies, but then you can still harvest them to get even more. So there's not even like an additional Adam thing. It is entirely morality based at that point. But the downside is that adopting them and going with them to take Adam from bodies is kind of a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
It takes longer. So I mean, that was when Noah and I played the game together many years ago. That was really why even both of us kind of would harvest most of the time, like right at the beginning, because having to just take them and guard them as they're collecting Adam and then take them to the vent was just, oh my god, it was just such a laborious process in comparison. So I feel like once again the morality system kind of takes a hit by simple inconvenience.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that's a big problem with games too. And especially in this one where it started to feel more like a chore than it did, a challenge.
Yep. Which I guess you could argue that also just plays into the morality, but I don't know. I guess I'm lazy. That's it. But I do like that they did kind of add more to it since you are a big daddy and it's not just save or harvest. I do like that they did add more to it and it's not just kind of a copy paste exact same feature from the first game.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you there.
Also, returning from the first game, sort of, is hacking. So, security systems and vendors, where you buy stuff, can be hacked, just like in the first Bioshock. But the process was very, very streamlined. In the first Bioshock, there were time-consuming, I would say I did a lot of them, very time-consuming pipe puzzles. Do you remember like what pipe puzzles are? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Kinda do. I'm trying. If you could further explain a little more.
Okay, so you're looking at a grid. I think it was like a 5x5 grid, maybe in the first one, might be 6x6, doesn't matter. Where you have point A and point B, and you have to connect them using different pipes that some go straight horizontally, some go straight vertically, some curve and like made turns. And you had to connect point A to point B using these pipes while also avoiding traps and things like that.
Yes, I remember these. And did it have like a yellow background to it? I remember these.
It was kind of a machine-like background, but
yeah.
That's the first game. The second game, it's a simple timing puzzle where all you do, there's a one of those like temperature gauges where there's just a needle moving back and forth. In the center is a green area of varying size depending on the difficulty, and also the needle is moving faster or slower. Stop the needle in the green area one time, I'm pretty sure just one time, and boom, it's done. Thing is hacked. It takes a lot less time than the pipe puzzles for sure.
Yep. Yeah, I remember that one.
Here's the thing, I appreciate them streamlining it, but also I love the pipe puzzles. I love those like pipe puzzle things. So like I'll be honest, I was kind of sad that they did not bring those back.
Jaden thing to say, man.
I like them. They're fun. Connect the pipes, Cam. Connect the pipes.
Yeah. We get it.
Yeah. Anyway, but even for me, someone who did like them, I did think kind of as I got to maybe the last 30% of the game, I do think it got a little, what's the word? A little tedious. Because I mean, by the last 30%, you do have an option. You can either spend money or use like an automatic hacking tool to skip it. As I got later on in the game, I did start doing that a lot more because I do think there was way too many stuff to hack. Like it happened way too often for how long it did take. But I still like the pipe puzzles. So, this is a good and a bad.
Yeah. For research cameras, this was a certain topic that I remember because of Sinclair, which we talked about earlier. You would record videos instead of stills. During this time, you have to attack the targeted enemy with a variety of attacks to raise up the meter. Once you have killed the enemy or you have acquired an upgrade on this enemy, the recording will stop. Each enemy has 4 upgrades. And I remember Sinclair would like, I don't know if it was constantly, but I felt like it was always constantly like reminding you like, I'm not gonna do his accent, but he'd be like,
Yeah, do the accent.
oh, you want me to? Okay, he'd be like,
Do it.
hey, kid. He'd be like, like,
Yeah.
like, like, take the camera. He's like, don't forget to use the camera and use it. Make sure you need to use it. You need video evidence proof.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Perfect. Yeah. This is another thing that I feel like I did not personally like the change. I thought playing through the first Bioshock, the taking the pictures was kind of goofy because you could not use the camera and a weapon at the same time. You had to get like getting a picture of the splicer in action, like doing an attack, or like you needed it to be like a front facing picture for it to be good. And you could take up to 3 pictures and get points. And I feel like it did take a while for the points to accumulate for you to get all the upgrades. So I would literally begin every single fight up until I got all the upgrades. I would begin every single fight, just pull out the camera, take picture, take picture, take picture, move on. Okay, now I can kill him, which was a little goofy. And I did think it needed improvement, but I don't think the video camera was a better way. I think it was bad just for different reasons.
Yeah, I agree. Which but I remember like I thought though in this one though the only thing that was different was usually you would only have to take a picture of them and then you were able to kill them. That was a nice part. But once again, after a certain amount of time, it got tedious and just nah.
Yeah. Well, in this one, it seems you have to do different attacks to get more points, and it just seemed it was just a lot more confusing to me in trying to figure it out, and I was not a fan of it.
Agreed.
Like when Noah and I played through the game, we never used it initially. Anyway, also returning from Bioshock, you've got the tonics. Gene tonics are special serums made from processed atoms that insert modified stem cells into the body, allowing for genetic modification and mutation. In other words, they're perks. Just perks, guys. Just calm down. It's just a perk. Just perks. They provide bonuses to Delta, such as reducing damage taking, increasing damage of weapons and plasmids, other bonus stuff. There are a lot of them. Again, they can be found or bought, very similar to the first Bioshock. Again, this is something that I should also say when I say I didn't necessarily find useful. I played this game on the easiest difficulty, or maybe the second easiest difficulty, medium, whatever. Did not play on hard. So probably more useful on the higher difficulties. But in my experience, when playing through Bioshock 2, I did not mess with these a lot. So I feel like it might have just been because that's how I was when I played games at the time. But in Bioshock 2, I did not use them a lot. I did not think that they were as useful again as in the first game when I played it.
Just like as Jaden said, I also agree that they weren't that useful. And really that with these, I just got kind of use the drill. It was pretty easy to kill your opponents with the drill itself. Are you good, Jaden?
Sorry, I had muted myself and forgot. My bad.
You're good. You're okay.
Hey, Cam, talk about power to the people.
Whoop, whoop. Weapon upgrade stations. Each weapon had 3 upgrades, but there are only 14 stations. So unlike Bioshock, you cannot fully upgrade every weapon in one playthrough. Boo.
Boo!
You can upgrade. You can upgrade weapons damage.
Boo!
Okay, no heckling, sir. No heckling. You can upgrade weapons damage, ammo capacity, recoil, alternate fire, etc. New to Bioshock 2, though, was getting every upgrade for one weapon adds an additional special effect.
I did say new to Bioshock 2. Did not check that. Verify that's true. But that is something. For example, the rivet gun. If you get all 3 upgrades, your rivets become kind of like molten metal that you shoot, so they deal like fire damage on top of just normal damage. Yeah, you can't get every upgrade in this game like you can in the first, which pisses me off. I hate when games do that. I don't want to choose. I want all of them.
Yeah, I agree. That was a problem for me as well.
Yeah, it's just give me all of them,
Right.
Yeah. Anyway, collectibles, Cam. You mentioned this earlier. Audio diaries, they're short audio snippets from notable people in Rapture, provide additional background information on characters, on the world, on everything. Cam, I know you've listened to the podcast before, at least once. As Noah and I say, and I've said 1,000 times, now I'm going to say it to you. collectibles that add more information to the lore of the world, 100% Jaden approves of every time. I absolutely love those collectibles.
Me too, because I agree that I also think it gives character development. It adds more to the story. It fuels the fire. It just, like I said, and plus, like, I don't know, it was always nice when, a lot of times, like, you're hearing the music in the game or whatever you're doing. I always like hearing, those little short audio snippets of someone talking. I don't know why, but it was just calming to me. And once again, it was just interesting, especially with their old voice in the
And kind of like
box.
an old timey recording sound.
I love that.
Yep. Additionally, Cam, in terms of liking these lore collectibles, audio diaries are great because they're audio, so I don't have to sit and read a document. I will sit and read documents, collectibles in games. I would say maybe 40% of the time, honestly. I actually do not do it a lot because, it halts the game. I don't want to halt the game when I'm playing it usually to read documents, especially if they're kind of longer. Like, for example, The Last of Us, the first Last of Us game. The documents I felt like were very short. You could read through them in less than 30 seconds. So I wouldn't mind taking the time. But in a lot of games, the documents, that kind of stuff, is a lot longer. And I don't want to take the time to stop and read them because, I'm playing the game. I want to keep playing the game. And I swear I've done this so many times where I think, oh, when I beat the game, I'll sit and read all the documents. Never do. Never done it once. Yeah. So I very much prefer audio collectibles, and specifically the audio collectibles in Bioshock where they play no matter where you are and no matter what you're doing. So I do not have to halt my gaming experience to get that lore. I can get it while I'm just exploring the environments.
Yes, and that is an amazing feature that Bioshock does. I absolutely love that. I mean, you could be fighting somebody, and that collectible was still going on. Definitely a great thing.
Yeah. It's much better than, because I mean, there have even been audio collectibles in games where you still just have to sit there and listen to it and can't do anything else. And that's just as bad. But honestly, worse because I can read faster than people can talk.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to me, it also kind of reminds me of now these ones you would have to hold and watch, but Fallout, and
Uh,
they'd have little video clips with, like, once
uh
again, like, the old timey voice box.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, those, by the way, those are still my favorite. I love
Well,
those.
I feel like those still work better because, I mean, one, they are presented in an entertaining way. And two, they're still short. Like one of those videos is, what, 20 seconds long? Like
Oh
they're
yeah,
short videos.
yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. I was just comparing them because I
Yeah.
thought
No,
those
I
are
get
all.
you. Those are what?
I said I was just comparing those because those are also neat.
Yeah, I get you. Yeah, I mean, I think it's the same. Bioshock Infinite has the those. I don't know what they're called, but you like look into them and it's like a little slideshow.
Yes. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, like those. Again, those are very short, so I didn't mind doing those. But I mean, like I remember you want to say a perfect example of a game that has way too long collectibles. Gotham Knights, played through that recently, and I talked about it on the podcast. And one of the collectibles you get are these like supply drops that Batman left around Gotham. And in each drop, when you get it, you get an audio diary left by Batman. And I think it's 8. It might be as much as 12. And I swear to you, those audio diary entries are at least 3 minutes long each. I mean, they are so long. And I'm like, dude, this provides more lore on the Batman of this game, which is was a very new kind of concept, different Batman I hadn't encountered previously, in terms of how he's portrayed and things. And it would have been so interesting to like watch and listen to them. But yeah, I'm like, I just didn't want to sit there. I just didn't want to sit and listen to them. They're so long.
Yeah, and they were they're kind of repetitive too. Like, they were different. They were just like, you'd start listening and listening, and then you're like, dear God, just please let it stop.
Yeah. And like it's unfortunate because like obviously they put time into developing those, person put time into recording them, the voice acting and everything. And it's like I do kind of hate that I'm kind of ignoring this part of this game that people did put time into including, but at the same time I don't got time for that.
Yeah.
Anyway, now we'll move on to, probably aside from playing as a big daddy, the biggest thing added into BioShock 2, multiplayer. Cam, tell us about multiplayer. Professional
Bioshock.
gamer Cam, tell us about multiplayer.
Okay. All right. The professional. Okay. Bioshock 2 features a story-driven multiplayer mode called Fall of Rapture. in which the player plays one of Rapture's citizens during the 1959 to 1960 Civil War. Plasmid manufacturer Sinclair Solutions asked the citizens to test out their weapons and plasmids as part of the rewards program. Weapons from both Bioshock games are featured, and they are exclusive weapons and plasmids. Players customize their character and equip weapons and plasmids from their apartment, which serves as an optional visual representation of the game's menus. Menus?
Menus.
Menus. Oh,
Menus.
jeez.
What?
Well, why don't you put? Okay, hold on. I'm sorry. Listen, you're keeping this one on the pod. Everybody, I don't know if there's a way to comment. But if somehow you can like say it through your brain, tell Jaden to put menus with a apostrophe s.
It doesn't need an apostrophe s.
Does it not really?
No,
Wow.
It's just plural. It's just menus.
That looks like bad English, man. Okay.
It looks weird, but it's just menus.
Okay, I got.
Let me tell you, I don't know if this is going to the final episode, but I'm playing this for Haley because she's gonna love this.
It's it's okay, but I mean, Jesus, man, menus.
Yeah. Menus. The game's menus.
Yeah, all right, Jaden.
Campbell, you grew up in this country.
I did. You know what? You know what I'm thinking, ladies and gentlemen?
Anyway,
Jaden is trying to sabotage my first episode on the pod. That's what's going on here.
You say episode?
Episode.
Yeah. Anyway.
Okay.
Anyway, there are 7 game modes, including classic deathmatch, and of course both free for all deathmatch and team deathmatch, and capture the sister, which is Bioshock's version of capture the flag. Classic game mode versus game mode multiplayer. Goes without saying, I never play the multiplayer for this game. It is I don't like multiplayer. I know Cam didn't because he's a little young guy. He didn't even play the game till the remaster, which didn't have multiplayer. I will say, from what I have seen, the multiplayer was decently fun. From what people have, I've seen kind of people talking about it. I did watch some videos on it, so I at least kind of knew a bit about it. But one thing they do that I will say, not even having played it, I love, is they made the multiplayer part of the story, where you actually play as citizens during the Civil War of Rapture, which, huge ass event that happened in the history of Rapture. I mean, it's a huge thing. Happens before the first game, obviously happens before this one. And I love that. I love when games kind of take the multiplayer mode and make it a part of the world and not just a random thing. For example, The Last of Us did it with you playing as the Fireflies and the Hunters, and there's actually events that happen, and your performance kind of affects the events that are happening throughout the story, and you actually are going through 8 weeks, and might even be 12 weeks of being a Firefly group or a Hunter group battling in this territory. Very cool how they did that in Last of Us, and I love how they do it in Bioshock. I think that's very cool, making it part of the world, so it's not just a random thing. It's hey, you're part of history here when you're playing this multiplayer, and I think that's very cool.
Yeah, I didn't play it, but it does sound like a really sweet game mode. I think I did. Sometimes it's hard to remember when Noah and Jaden used to play, but I do feel like I remember seeing the characters in the load screen before you'd go on. But that's really all I remember from it because since I'm a little young guy, I didn't
little young guy Cam. That's what we call him at home.
Yeah, I'm not Big Daddy. I'm Little Daddy.
Yeah. See, it's Big Daddy J and Little Daddy C. That's what we call each other all the time.
Yeah.
Done it for years.
Yeah.
Anyway, I do also like the fact that you can customize your character, and that's always cool, being able to customize your character in multiplayer games. I also like the fact that the menu of the multiplayer is shown like your apartment in Rapture. Again, it's just those little what's that word? Making you feel like you're part of the world.
Captivating. Point of view, POV, first player POV.
Nah, hold on. Son of a bitch. You feel like you're in the world, you're yeah, okay. Just making you feel like you're a part of the world. Yeah, I'm real pissed. I can't remember that word. That used to be a category of this podcast talking about it. Anyway, just feeling like you're part of the world. I think that's really cool, them doing that with menus. It's always just that little kind of going above and beyond extra thing that they didn't have to do it, but the fact they did, I appreciate the effort, and I think it is really cool.
Yeah, I agree. Hashtag Google.
Immersion makes you
Oh,
feel
okay.
immersed in the world. That's it.
I
Great
got you.
immersion, guys. Anyway, now we move on to my favorite section of the podcast, Cam, notable trophies. You know me, I'm a trophy collector. Noah has to
Yes.
hear about my trophies all the time. You can hear about it. I don't have the platinum in this game. I actually didn't care about trophies when Noah and I played through this game years ago, so not much to talk
Boo.
about. Yeah,
Boo.
sorry. I'm sorry.
You're not.
Yeah,
You're not a real trophy collector,
shut!
man.
I'll kill you.
God.
I will kill you. Anyway, so there are two notable trophies that, Cam, as I've talked with Noah, you can tell when developers like that they put like the achievements factor of games and when they really hate it. And it seems like people who made Bioshock 2 like it. There are some funny trophy names, some funny trophies, including Big Brass Balls. Finish
All
the
right.
game without using Vita chambers. Vita chambers, they're basically your like checkpoints. Like that's where you respawn when you die. If you There's an option to disable them. If you disable them before playing, then when you die, you go back to your previous save, which is an old-timey game thing that some people like and some people hate. Obviously, you can kind of still make the game easier by just saving as often as possible. But if it's something you're not used to and you forget to save and you die, you can lose hours of progress. And let me tell you, as someone who has had that happen before in Pokemon, not fun.
Yeah, I
Um,
would cry.
but yeah, beat the game without using Vita chambers. It itself, this trophy itself, it's not too difficult because you can do it on any difficulty, so you can do it on the easiest difficulty if you want. But it is still an extra thing you can do. And then 9 Irony. Paid your respects to the founder of Rapture. Early on in the game, in Ryan Amusements, I believe, you find an animatronic Andrew Ryan. On his desk, in his kind of area he has, is a golf club that you can lift with telekinesis and throw and knock the head off of his animatronic to unlock this trophy. Obviously, a reference to the first game when you bash his skull in with a golf club and kill him. So yeah, it's just a fun little reference. I enjoyed that. Yeah, that's fun. Notable trophies. I liked it. I like those cheeky trophy names like that, like 9 Irony, because it's a 9 iron and it's ironic that you're kid. Anyway, moving on. And now we move on to our questions, everybody. Starting with favorite moments. Playing as a big daddy.
Yeah, mine was
Playing
definitely playing today.
playing as a big daddy, baby. One of the most, I mean, you want to talk about just Bioshock being iconic, Rapture being iconic, one of the most iconic enemies in the history of video games. Big daddies. So iconic that Cam nicknamed me after them. And sort of Cam was also nicknamed after them, just little. Anyway, they are. I mean, being able to play as one is awesome. Having your own drill, having a rivet gun, awesome. Nothing else needs to be said. Campbell, say something.
Yes, I for sure think Big Daddy. They just you think you're like this big, muscular tank of a beast, right? You got this drill. You got all these different special powers you can use. You got these guns. I mean, if you don't feel like a man when you're playing as Big Daddy, I don't know what you're supposed to feel like, because I definitely do. Definitely my favorite part of the game. I love taking my drill and just driving it right into people's faces. That was the best.
Absolutely. What we didn't like about the game, as I said, my only big thing is the ending. And, I'll even add the removal of the pipe puzzles. Kind of as I said earlier, I feel like the plasmids and the tonics were not as useful. I didn't use them as much. But also, it has been such a long time since I played the game, Bioshock 2 specifically, that I feel like that's not a fair criticism to make just because I just, as a gamer and the way I approach video games like this is a lot more different than back then. But yeah, pipe puzzles, bring them back. And then also the ending, as I said, you die. I don't want Delta to die. I like Delta. Keep him alive. For shame, 2K Marin. For shame.
Yeah. The ending is definitely kind of a disappointment. I didn't like that. The only thing I'd say about the game that I didn't like is not everything clicking together. I just feel like there were some things that were just kind of left off, which to me, I mean, I don't know. I just feel like some of it wasn't really like it wasn't really useful, or they didn't use it in the way they could have. So that kind of sucked.
I get what you're saying. Anyway, next, replayability. For me, it's an eh. Because it has been so long, I am interested in replaying it. But honestly, I feel like the first one overall is a better game to replay. Like I would play the first one before this one.
I agree with what you're saying. I definitely would play the first one before this one, but I would 100% play this one again. I still think it's a good game, and I still think it's underrated. Besides all the hate it did get, so I definitely would play it again.
Cool. Now we move on to DLC. So, DLC. Bioshock 2 actually had a lot of DLC. First, there's multiplayer DLC, additional characters, maps, achievements, cosmetics, things like that. I don't really care. Moving on, the Protector Trials Pack. There was a similar kind of DLC challenge pack released for the first game. This one is a single-player challenge mode in which the player defends Little Sisters against swarms of enemies in various challenge rooms. The content contains 6 maps based on locations from the main game with 3 levels of difficulty. Also, new achievements, and you're able to unlock new concept art and videos for the game. Those are fun, concept art and videos. I enjoy those. I'll typically check those out whenever I play a game, after I'm finished. And, I mean, this is something that I did not participate in, but I do appreciate challenge rooms. I think that they're interesting. I would potentially actually go back and try those. I think they're interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I don't know which one it is, but I know one of them you get a lot more of Lamb's voice recordings,
Mm.
um, which was something that I feel like we missed out on a lot on. Like I feel like she had some moments where she was speaking, but I don't know. I feel like you never really broke you. I mean, you broke the ice with her, but I just feel like there could have been more done, which
Like
they
you
did
feel like
very
she should
better
have
on
been
that.
more. You feel like she should have been more present in the main game, is what you're saying.
Yes, yes, and more
Yeah, I get you.
utilized. Yes.
I get you. Yeah, I felt the same way, honestly, about Andrew Ryan in the first game. I felt like he was, for how big of a character Andrew Ryan is in gaming history, I was surprised when I played it that he was not in the game more. I get that. And then, guys, we have to talk about Minerva's Den. Bioshock 2 Minerva's Den is considered by many, it is a very popular DLC, is considered to be one of the best, if not the best, single player story DLC of all time. I personally have not played it, although I talk about me replaying Bioshock 2. One of the reasons I would want to replay Bioshock 2 is to play Minerva's Den because it is everyone that played it loves it. It is considered one of the best. If you Google top 10 video game single player DLCs of all time and looked at 10 different websites, 10 different people, I bet you at least 8 of them, if not all 10, would include Minerva's Den on that list. People love it. So it is a separate plot from the main campaign. The player assumes the role of Subject Sigma, another Alpha Series Big Daddy, as he travels through Minerva's Den, the home to Rapture's central computer. The whole DLC builds more on the lore of Rapture itself. Of course, as a big lore guy, I love that. And again, I have nothing else to say other than apparently it's really good. And I do actually really want to play it.
I played Minerva's Den.
Oh,
I did. I played Minerva's
oh
Den.
my God. I was
It
not expecting this.
it was it no, it was a part of the 3 game
Yeah, the
collection.
collection, yep.
Yes, it was a part of the 3 game collection,
Well, yeah, it's
and
also actually funny. Just before, I think I own it on PS3. It's called like the Bioshock Ultimate Rapture Edition, which contained Bioshock 1, 2, and all the DLC. And then there's the Bioshock collection you have. But
yeah.
before those games, it was delisted for some reason. Like there was a time period where you could no longer buy it as DLC, so unless you previously owned it, you couldn't play it, which I think added to the mystique of it because it was, yeah, I don't know why, but it was delisted from like the Xbox Live Arcade and from
Wow,
PlayStation
really?
Store. You could not play it for it. There was a time where you literally could not play that DLC.
Do you think that they shut the servers off for the game and that's why?
That wouldn't affect it because that's different. It's a single player thing, so shutting the servers down would not affect it. But yeah, I
Gotcha.
don't know why, but they just straight up took it off stores for some reason. So there was a time period where you could not play it. But anyway, Campbell, you
Yeah.
played it. What did you think of it?
I think it was amazing. Once again, Rapture was already a good lore. It built it up a lot. Okay, here's what's unironically funny is that I really didn't know that it was a DLC until after my friend told me, after I was done playing it. I just thought it was great. Like I didn't really know, like think of it as that until I told my friend about it. And, I was talking about one of the parts, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm nervous." Then and he goes, "Oh yeah, that's DLC," and I was like, "Oh," and it was so good that I couldn't believe that it was just DLC.
Yeah, well, that's cool. Yeah, I'd certainly have to play it. It's like because for our listeners, this was kind of a last minute pivot. This was not the game that I intended to talk about this week. Noah and I kind of had a plan before realizing we couldn't record together. And one of the reasons we had not done Bioshock 2 yet is I did actually want to go back and play it again and play through Minerva's Den before talking about it because I wanted to be able to, because again it's just such a popular DLC. But then, had the last minute change. This was a game that I knew Cam had played, so it's just what I went with. But yeah, maybe we'll do Minerva's Den for an indie bit or something in the future because I really want to play it and talk about it. Anyway,
Yeah, it was really cool, and I'm like, and it was cool because you went to like a robotic company responsible for the production of like many cities, so
mhm,
of like the automated devices. It was really
yeah,
neat. So if you do get to play it, then I'd 100% do that.
yeah. Anyway, moving on. Cam, what are your final thoughts on Bioshock 2?
My final thoughts. I mean, I've kind of said this before. I think it's still a very good game. It's still pretty decent in detail. They definitely missed out on some opportunities, and I do still think it's overrated. It's underrated, but overall, it is a good game.
I mean, I completely agree with what you said. I do think Bioshock 2 is underrated. I think story-wise, I think it is basically kind of the weakest if you want to talk overall story. But I think it absolutely lived up to Bioshock. I think it was an absolutely incredible game. And if you're a fan of Bioshock, I would absolutely recommend it. I see no reason why you would not enjoy this game if you maybe skipped it for some reason. Anyway, that's Bioshock 2. Hey
Okay.
guys, now it's time for the indie bit, the bit where we talk about indie games.
Yay!
All right, today we are talking about Call of the Sea. If you're an avid listener of this podcast, you know that Noah actually picked this game at the end of our last indie bit. And he's not here. And I didn't know what to do in terms of maybe pivoting to another game. But then I thought, no, I played this game. I played this game. We're talking about it. I'm talking about it in this episode, regardless whether or not Noah is here. So, tell you about this game. So this game, you play as, I think her name is Nora. What's her last
Uh,
name? What's her like Everhart? Nora Everhart plays Nora Everhart, a woman who, in I believe the game takes it's 1934, I think. She suffers from this very rare disease, genetic disease in her family that kills, killed her mom at a young age, kills her at a young age, and also it's like suffering. She has trouble walking, things like that. She needs a cane. Her husband went looking for a cure for this disease and disappeared. So she has followed him. She follows him to this island that is, I think, it's like 84 miles off the coast of Tahiti,
yeah,
kind of mysterious island. She follows her husband, went on an expedition there. She received a mysterious package from someone with some key items, like a key and a dagger, weird looking dagger, and the coordinates of that island. And so she goes to that island in search for her husband, and you spend the game kind of following along with his expedition, kind of tracing his footsteps to eventually find her husband and potentially maybe a cure for her disease. How the game works is it's a puzzle game. It's a first person. You walk around, you explore. Kind of each chapter of the game is split into one, two, maybe three kind of large areas that you explore around in. You find clues in the environment to then solve the puzzles in the game. I think the game is very generous with what is it? The game is very generous with, I feel like, hints. Uh,
yeah.
and but yeah, so you basically find clues throughout the environment that you then use to solve the puzzles to then move on and continue following this expedition. So it is, I guess, I would say it's a puzzle game. Cam, did you like this game?
I thought it was decent. I think it's one of those games where if it's a late night and you just want to kick back and play some games, I think this is a neat little game to play.
I can agree
Um,
with that. It's a very chill game.
yeah, it's a very mellow, chill game, which is nothing bad. I do think it had a pretty decent story. She goes finding her husband, and in order to find your husband, you have to do all these clues and do these clues and puzzles. You slowly make it through all the chapters. And overall, it was a really good game. Or really good. It was decent. I kind of saw it, and I was when I first got in there, I can't lie, I was expecting a little worse, but it wasn't bad. And it had these like little collectibles, and you would read these little things, and not long at all. They were really quick, like readables, and that was good. And as Jaden said too, they are generous with the helpfulness.
Yep.
I remember when you had to piece this picture back together,
Yeah.
you almost just had to click it, and it would put it in place for you.
I really like the word readables that you said. I don't think I've ever heard that word before, and I love it. I'm gonna use that word
It's
from now on. A lot of
it's good though,
readables.
right? Like
I like
it's
it.
cute. It sounds like
A
it's
lot of
it's a little
readables in
cute.
this game.
Yeah, it's a little cute thing. I don't know. I just
I'm just
came
gonna
up with it,
walk.
I
I'm
guess.
just gonna walk into a library and go to find the nearest librarian and say, "Show me your best readables here."
Yeah. My Paul told me there's readables around here.
As I was
Uh,
told I could find readables in this establishment, can you point me to your nearest section of nonfiction readables?
yeah. But
I'm a funny
overall though,
person.
yeah,
Yeah,
you're definitely funny.
yeah,
You know what, Jade, sometimes you're so funny I forget to laugh, man.
yeah.
It's
It
great.
happens a lot. Cam always forgets to laugh at my jokes.
Yeah, yeah. But it was a good game. What do you think? Did you like it?
Oh, I absolutely loved it. I like puzzle games. I was honestly very curious of having you, Cam, play this game because I don't really know what types of video games you like. So I was playing this just thinking, man, I don't know. I hope he likes it. I have no clue how he'll react to this. I thought the puzzles were very well done. They were definitely, I liked a good mix of challenging slash really helping you out with the clues. I think, yeah, it can be difficult without the clues. The clues are very, very key. I would say really it's part of the puzzle solving process is finding the clues because I don't think it's possible to do it without them. I mean, it is if you already know, but I'm saying if you went in blind, I don't think you could solve these puzzles without the clues. It's all, part of it. I thought the story was absolutely incredible. Without spoiling anything, there's twists, some awesome twists. You actually get to choose your ending at the when you get there. You get to choose, you have a choice between option A, option
Yep.
B. I went with option A, which I guess you could say is kind of the sad ending. I don't know. They both could be sad because I didn't see what option B was. But yeah, I thought the story was great. My really only complaint I have with this game is there were some times when I had a little bit of trouble figuring out what you could interact with. Because the game
Yeah.
does not really provide hints with that, other than just if you look at something and it'll show you that you can press the X button. There were times when I kind of had trouble. Like I'm just walking around looking at literally everything, just waiting for the X button to appear to know that I can interact with something. And also, I think you move a little too slow. Like you do have a run, which is nice, but even your run, I feel like maybe 10% faster because with how much like just running around you do between places, kind of finding the clues, going back to solve the puzzle. Oh, I'm still missing a clue. Let me go back over here. Yeah, sometimes that got a little tedious for me, but overall, it was a great
Yeah.
game. I loved it.
Yeah, I will say a bit embarrassing. I actually did have to cheat a little bit when I was
Oh my
in the
goodness.
beginning. You're in the
Uh-huh.
room, and there was this little I don't want to say chest. It's like a suitcase with a lock on it, and for some reason it was like, oh, I should check my my diary to to find the code for it. And I'm not kidding. I think I spent about 10 minutes, and I thought I hit every single button to pop up the diary, and I just couldn't find it. Like I could not get.
You couldn't open your journal.
No, no, I didn't know it was triangle, and I guess I just didn't hit it. I don't.
that's that's awesome.
Yeah, so
I
I
just
was.
picture you're sitting in this room on a boat, just like, where's my diary?
Yeah, I'm hearing like the
Oh
same
my
like.
god,
I'm over
I
here like I'm over
love
here
that.
looking. I'm stressing, bro. I'm over here like Jesus. Like it can't be this early in the game, and I'm already messing up. And all I'm hearing is
That's
and like he's over here like he's over he's over here like yeah. He's like we're about to board off the ship, and I'm like oh my god. I'm like I can't figure out what the code is. So I remember I was like I hate to do this, but I'm gonna look it up.
that's
And I look and
awesome.
it's like 509. I
It was
think
like
that oh I
506 or
didn't.
something.
Yeah, it was something like that. So I hit it, and then I get to the island, and it's like I see something, and mind you, by the time I'm at the island, I still don't know how to hit my
Oh,
journal
that's
yet.
funny. That's funny.
Yeah, and then when I finally got there, it finally was like, "Ooh, this is in my journal." It was like pop up, and it's like in the corner, it shows like a little blinking triangle, and I was like,
That's
"Oh,
awesome. That's an awesome story. That's great. Anyway, yeah, so overall, it's a great game. I love it. That is the indie bit. So now, our next indie bit game. Cam, what is our next indie bit game?
you, what do you mean?"
That's right, folks. There isn't one. Gotcha. Got Cam. Got ever. I'm the best. So, actually, guys, our next episode is going to be our 3-year anniversary episode for the Super Game Bros podcast. 3 years that, been doing this now. So, our next episode will actually be our second annual SGB Awards episode, where Noah and I look back at the games that we talked through this past year and, have our own little award ceremony celebrating those games. So that's what we'll be doing next.
Yeah, sounds
Yeah,
exciting.
so
I'll
there'll be no indie bit for that episode. It'll just be us talking about the games we talked about previously. So yeah, look forward to that. Anyway, don't forget, new episodes every other Monday. Rate and subscribe. Tell us if you like our show. Tell us if you don't. Tell us why. Tell your friends and enemies about the podcast. You can follow our Instagram, the Super Gamer Bros, for updates on episodes. And you can subscribe to our YouTube channel, Super Gamer Bros. That is one word, capital S, capital G, capital B, period at the end, where videos are uploaded every day. Noah is still going hard on the YouTube, uploading videos every day. So check that out. Anyway, guys, thank you for listening, and we will see you guys next game. Cam, this is where you say bye.
All right, I'll just say see you guys. See you guys.
If you just say bye, just let them know it's over. Yeah.
Bye.
Yeah. Bye. What do you want to say? Just say something. Just say it.
I said see you guys. See you guys.
All right. See you guys.